Right, Adric was back, and it was fucking amazing. I love Adric. He's the best thing to have ever happened to Doctor Who.
This story.
Ever in this story. And he was back. And that was just the greatest thing that I've ever seen, quite frankly. I've enjoyed that tremendously.
I think you're lying. Or it might be backwards land.
So, I'm really trying to like this. I'm really trying to like this. And, like, when the Professor rocked up, I thought, oh, this is good as Professor, but he's a knob end. Like, he's really annoying. I think I'm really pushing hard. I think some of the acting of the aircraft crews actually pretty good, you know. Seeing them slip in and out of being mesmerised, or whatever the terminology we're using. Quite enjoyed that, you know. I think they're selling it hard, and I've got respect for that. I think this flipping effect where they're sort of like computer graphics over the screen and then there's bubbles. Again, I keep saying this, I'm so forgiving of bad effects in Doctor Who.
It's very liquid, isn't it?
Yeah, it does. And it's just, it's almost as if individual elements of this story are trying really hard to pull me out of believing in this story. On top of that, and we've not even got to my best bit yet. On top of that, nothing really happened here.
Nothing really happened.
I mean, Nyssa gets taken over, and yes, I did like the Nyssa and Tegan being confronted by things from the past. I quite enjoyed that. That, you know, in another story, because this is the last story of the season. Then, in another story, that would be a nice. Oh my gosh, things are ramping up here. But with the best film in the world, it was quite clear that everything was faded and stuff like that. I think Adric being in it is cheap, quite frankly. Although you gasped, to be fair, Lib.
I did. This is true.
But in terms of the plotting, this is as padded out nonsense as possible. There's been no explanation so far to anything going on. So now let's get to the Master.
Spoiler alert.
First of all, it's unforgivably racist. There's just no... I can't... You know, all this... Oh, I learned this in the deserts of Arabia, and I'll call the spirits and this, that, and the other. And I'm sure at one point it linked into sort of Buddhist ideology and stuff like this. Honestly, it's unforgivably just stereotyping awfulness. There's little to no justification for that. No, there's no justification for that. This is just a poorly written character who they've just latched on some negative stereotypes to give him something. And then we get the reveal of the Master at the end. Right, okay. We have 2 episodes to go, and I'm willing to be proven wrong. But why the chuff was the Master in disguise? He's not seen anybody in the story, up until the point he meets the Doctor, who would know him as the Master. All right? So we've not met anybody. He's not seen anybody.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, why is he bothered being card for everyone else?
And then... when he meets the Doctor, he says nothing that he would not have said as the Master. It's not as if he tries to sweet talk him. It's not as if he tries to convince him to his way of thinking. It's just like, no, give me your TARDIS or I'll take you over. Why did he have to be in disguise? So the only justification for it is just the most appalling justification, which is it's not a disguise for anybody in the story. It's a disguise for the viewer. And so, again, that just drags you straight out of the story because... there's just no point to it. Unless there's some... I mean, at this stage of the story, unless there's something that crops up, and I can't remember if there's anything that crops up, but unless there's something, the last 2 episodes that says, oh, yes, I had to be in disguise because the spirits would see me as their master and this, that, and the other. But my God, what a state.
Can I just put a positive?
Go on there, Libs. Give me a positive.
I like the camaraderie between Tegan and Nyssa.
Yeah, Tegan and Nyssa work.
Like, Tegan says, oh, no, Doctor, I'll stay here with Nyssa because the airline man, the captain's much more used to you. And I thought to myself, I don't think that's actually true,
Yeah.
Tegan. I think you would probably be just as useful. But obviously her staying with Nyssa. And then as soon as Nyssa says, we've got to go to the Citadel, Tegan's like, oh, no, that's not what the Doctor said.
Yeah.
But then like this is like, no, we have to. She's like, right, I'm in.
Yeah,
And
and
I love that.
and I think they work together as a pair. And to be honest, what I think you could have had more of is if you play up the Tegan's the older one and with a little bit more life experience, but Nissa
This
is
is the spacey one.
Nissa's got the book smarts and this weird, and it's happened a couple of times now, this weird sort of psychic connection to things. I'm sure it's cropped up in a couple of stories. And then if you tie that into it, if you really want to go down the soap opera route, you could play up the fact that Tegan's recently been, psychically assaulted. And that would be a nice connection between these two characters. I think as actresses, they are trying very hard to make this work, this relationship between the two work. But I really want to like this story. I really want it to hold together, but it doesn't. And, we're in a... Why is... Oh, I know why it's not a location, because they've bloody run out of money at the end of the season. That's clearly why they've run out of money. Why it's not a location even. But... honestly, I could drive you 10 kilometres, 20 kilometres out down my road and find more convincing 65 million years ago's just out there than anything on my screen right there. Come to Sheffield, you prats, and do it here. It would be awesome. So I'm frustrated because this season's going to end on the flattest note imaginable. And, oh, no, end on a high. I think it's the first time we've seen Davison do the flick a coin and still walk the other way. And I love that. It's one of my favourite things about Davison's Doctor. Silly thing. But honestly, I think Davison looks like he's just knocked this one. I'm not getting anything from Davison apart from... Like, he even gets flipping... Like, the captain... There's scenes in this where the captain does the talking to the professor. Baker wouldn't have had that. Pertwee wouldn't have had that. Maybe Troughton, but that's a different dynamic. Nah, this is just flat and bad. This is just bad.